Welcome to the Big World Made Small podcast for the adventure traveler. I'm thrilled you're here. My name is Jason Elkins, and in addition to being your host, I'm also a former U.S. Army paratrooper, third-generation commercial hot air balloon pilot, paramotor pilot, ex-Montana fly fishing guide, advanced open water scuba diver, and a full-time nomad that's visited more than 30 countries on 6 continents. As a seasoned adventure travel expert with a passion for creating and sharing meaningful experiences, I'm on a quest to impact the lives of adventure travelers, tour operators they rely on, and the communities that host them. Every week, I bring you exclusive interviews with fascinating adventure tourism experts who have agreed to share their personal stories, favorite destinations, and some invaluable travel insights they've picked up along the way. We'll enjoy a casual conversation, create some connections, and likely share some laughs. It's my hope that by the end of each episode, this big world will feel just a bit smaller. Let's get started, shall we? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Big World Made Small podcast for the adventure traveler. Today, we've got Eric here, Eric Sheets. He is the founder and director of Latin Excursions, among some other things that we may get into as well. But Eric, welcome to the show. So happy to have you here.
Glad to be here. Look forward to talking with you.
Yeah, this will be fun. You and I had a brief conversation earlier, and I know you've got a lot of stories to tell. And I remember in that conversation, I said, don't tell me now. Don't tell me now. Wait till we hit the record button. So, and as listeners probably already know, and as I was just mentioning to you, who knows where the conversation's going to go, but I trust it's going to be a lot of fun.
Me too.
Let's start with, I think that, well, first of all, where are you calling from? Where are you physically located right now?
I'm physically located in the Triangle Research area of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay, that's different than the last time we spoke.
Okay, well, last time I spoke, I think I might have been in Florida, but
okay.
This is where family and ideas come out of.
All right, very cool. So you're at home. That's where you live.
Yeah.
All right, very cool.
That's where home is.
So let's figure out how you got, because there's a lot of things to discuss, but let's go back to the beginning, as far back as you think we need to go. I don't know if that's early childhood or what, but kind of let's go back as far as you think you need to go, and I might push you to go a little further if we need to.
Sure. Well, first of all, my parents are met in an elevator at Citibank, New York. So that's the first oddity. My father was a self-described cowboy from Illinois, and my mother was an Andean coastal lady from Ecuador, and they were both working in the bank, and they met in the elevator, and that's where my parents always say, always have your elevator speech ready. You never know who you're going to meet.
Ooh, that's a good example. Good reason to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
So and a year later, they sent my father to a very remote area of Brazil. Now it's more famous, but to open a bank there, and this is Salvador do Bahia, which is the New Orleans of Brazil. So
okay.
that seed was deposited in me with all the rhythms and music and colors of the region. If people don't know, that's where samba comes from. A lot of the cultural music influence comes from that region, Salvador do Bahia. So from there, we moved around the region, Panama, Costa Rica, Ecuador, and then DC, and then Virginia, and back and forth a couple times with Latin America.
So you were born in Brazil.
I was born in Brazil.
Okay. How long were you there before you guys moved on to the next place?
I was a little kid, three years old.
Okay. So you probably don't remember too much of that.
No, been back, but not since then.
All right. Very, very cool. So what's the first memory that you have of living in one of these places?
I would say my first memory actually was in Panama. For those that don't know Panama City, it's warm, and in the afternoon you look forward to those warm breezes that come off the ocean there. And I still remember a piñata flying with those breezes, and me trying to hit the piñata, and instead, of course, I hit a kid.
Oh. You were blindfolded, I take it, or was this an intentional thing?
I don't know, but they blindfolded me, and it was a kid that was yapping too much. I guess it came out of my unconscious.
Do you remember, was this a kid you already knew and didn't care for, or was this just...
Yeah, no, I was not I was social, but not too social back then. But I was looking for the candies.
Uh-huh. Yep.
But that was my
Absolutely.
first memory, hitting a kid with a pole instead of a piñata.
All right. Very, very cool. And how long were you in Panama? Do you have an I mean, were you there for a
We
while before you moved
we
on,
were
or?
there for a couple years, and then we moved on to Costa Rica, and again, always with my parents. And my father was a avid bird watcher, and for those that know something about birds, Panama is probably is where you can get the most bird count in the territory, and then comes Colombia and then Ecuador. So we were always going with in that region, following him. I actually have a story of having been in the back of a bug, one of these small bugs in Costa Rica near the Panamanian border, and supposedly I was one of the first ones to identify the quetzal, which is the national bird of Guatemala. So it's a beautiful bird.
Very, very cool. You said a bug. Are we talking like those little Volkswagen bugs, or?
That's right. Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
All
That's
right.
right.
Very cool. And how many? Do you have siblings?
I have one brother who was born actually in Panama.
Okay, so he's younger. Is he? Maybe we're jumping ahead here a little bit, but was he as inspired in the adventure tourism space as you are? What's he doing?
No, he actually stuck with Citibank. He followed my parents' footsteps, and I actually did for before starting Latin Excursions. I was an exciting auditor in Citibank, and
Exciting. I heard you say exciting auditor.
I say that because travel is definitely a lot more exciting. That's the main reason I switched, and I'm being facetious there, but I basically, after a couple of years, I decided to take a couple of my colleagues at the bank on a trip to the Galapagos, and then I realized, this is a lot more exciting than going into a bank and pretend that you're liked as an auditor.
Oh yeah, probably not a good way to make friends with your colleagues and
That's right.
coworkers.
That's
So
right.
when you were younger, obviously you lived in some different places that many might consider exotic. It's not, maybe not the typical childhood of somebody that ends up working in a bank. And as you're growing up, like when you're a teenager, did you want to go into banking? Was it you just felt like that was going to happen, or did you feel pressure? I'm just curious how you got into banking, I guess.
Good question. The reason I didn't get into banking right after college. I went to school in Charlottesville, Virginia, and studied economics and English, and I graduated right during the 1990 when we were in the midst of the recession, and there were not too many options back then. So I traveled. I went back and traveled the region for a couple 6 months, mostly Brazil actually, and
Okay.
tracing back my footsteps. And that's where I relearned. Well, not relearned, but that's where I mastered Portuguese. You could say the language, and then eventually I came back to the Washington D.C. area, got into American Express travel. Back then, there were still traveler checks, and I was one of the guys that would get called at 3 a.m. the night shift and arrange it to get you a traveler check in the middle of nowhere somewhere in the world. So that was my introduction into travel logistics, and then eventually that led into me getting into a job with Citibank, and I was transferred to Latin America to work with Citibank in the small country of Ecuador.
Yep.
And
I'm
then
curious.
go
I
ahead.
was going to ask you, Eric, before I forget to ask this. So your parents, when when your dad first got that job to go to Brazil, was that something he requested, he wanted? Was it like, did he have the desire to go live in these types of places, or was it just part of his career progression, or what was that all about?
My father hated winter, and he came from the Rock Island Davenport border in Illinois, and he said, there's a lot more interesting birds in Brazil than there is in where he's
All right.
from. So
Okay.
so
I thought that might be the case.
yeah. So he
All right.
ended up in these weird places with a wonderful woman and my mom, and the rest is history. And that's what made up my story.
Right. And when you left, when you got out of college and you went down for a while, spent, I think you said 6 months in Brazil, did you, what was, were there any big life changes, any big like ahas or epiphanies or that came out of that?
There was. Um, Basically, for 1 month of those 6 months, I traveled through the beach areas of Bahia, which is the state or province where Salvador is,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to prove myself. How long can I actually live without having cash? Liquid currency. So
Ooh.
I basically exchanged. I basically washed dishes or became a server at some restaurants, but I I I I was able to live without cash pretty much for about 31 days. So it proved to my point that you can actually barter yourself without necessarily having cash.
I'm
And
curious at any point during, maybe you don't want to share this, but I've seen travelers that sometimes end up in places thinking I can make it here. I don't have any money, but I can make it here. And then at some point they're asking for the kindness of strangers to help them get the bus ticket or a ticket on a metro or something. So you made it 31 days without just direct, hey, I'm a traveler and I'm stuck and I need some cash.
yeah, no, I just met some people, and they say, hey, you want to work here, and then you can stay here, and I'll feed you, that type of thing. So there was
All
like, I
right.
think four or five places and work. So
So
it was an interesting challenge I did to
yeah,
myself.
would you do it again?
At this age, I don't think so. I definitely know my wife wouldn't, so she wouldn't come along.
You're on your own, buddy. So I'm curious, after 31 days of just kind of, I think they call it couch surfing now. But
Right, right.
after
And then
31 days of couch surfing, did you like, were you happy to have that little challenge behind you? And then
I was.
what did you do to finance yourself for the rest of the
I,
trip?
I was I tapped into some savings that I didn't really bring along. It was sent to me, and
Mm-hmm.
I was able to afford a hostel with a good shower. But
Very, very,
sure,
very cool. That's a good experience to have. So, all
yeah.
right. So
So,
fast forward back, you go to American Express. I remember those commercials on TV. We're talking about American Express. They show some couple lost. They're stranded in the middle of the night and getting a cashier's check sent to him or something like that. So, um, but anyway,
right,
so you went to Citibank and then Citibank transfer. You took a transfer with them to go where?
to Ecuador, and
Ecuador. That's right. Mm-hmm.
right, and my mother was from Ecuador, and she had a place down there. So and my
Ah,
parents were also living in Ecuador. For my father was working on some projects, so went down there and worked with Citibank. And back then it wasn't really audit, but it was credit and small business financing. But eventually that led to me being sent to Florida to work in as an auditor, risk manager
were you
for the Latin
disappointed?
American region.
Were you disappointed to leave Ecuador? I'm sure that's a promotion of some sort, or was it? Did you want to go back to the States?
I was there for a couple years, and basically the country. I learned everything I could learn, and I was looking for a new opportunity, and it seemed like a good opportunity. And but I learned after a year and a half of doing audit, it's not the most exciting career, and that eventually pushed me to get into travel, and that's how I founded Latin Excursions after taking some of my colleagues on to Galapagos. I and the niche was basically matching the right guide and experience in the Galapagos with the right boat or land-based experience. So I developed that you could say that magnifying glass of trying to match the right experience with the right traveler, and that's how Latin Excursion was born. A private, all services are private or customized and personalized around what the traveler likes to do, and I collected these experiences, especially since I had traveled the region, and first with the Galapagos, then mainland Ecuador, and eventually clients asked me, "Hey, could you do this in Machu Picchu or the Amazon?" And little by little, did I expand through the region, and eventually I caught the eyes of Travel and Leisure, and they put me on the map as a leading specialist in the region for this niche. So
Very cool.
that's how business took off.
Do you feel like your background kind of in the banking, um, honestly, as I listened to you say that, I expected you to say, I figured out an algorithm for matching the right client with the right experience. And I think that's where the question is like, do you feel like your banking, your analytical skills, maybe how you process information came in really handy in that, or is it a totally different skill set that you use now?
I would say it's totally different. I think that people seek my services because they couldn't really find what they were looking for online, or they got bombarded with too much information. So finding the right truffles or gems in the region and matching the right guide or experience with the right traveler is in my opinion what what I love to do, and that passion for the region and finding what people really love to do and matching that, I think is what makes a happy client, and most of our clients, of course, come back to us and ask for a new experience.
Okay, got it. Very cool.
Mhm.
How long after you took your friends to the Galapagos was it before you turned in your resignation letter at the bank?
I basically, it was about 2 weeks later. We came back from
Wow.
the trip, and I said, this is not for me, and I'm gonna take my little savings and try to form a company. I legalized it, and uh, it started out of my bedroom in South Florida, actually, and
Okay.
that
Did,
leads to an interesting story as well, because um, while I was at work, I was introduced to my wife, and it turned out that she lived in the same building and had gone to the same high school when I was in Ecuador. So
oh,
she was the we basically developed a business plan together and developed this business together, and she's from Ecuador as well.
okay. That's interesting because my very next question was going to be, when you resigned from your job, were you married? Were you in a relationship? And how did that go over? Because I'm just imagining, yep, you're a banker with Citibank. You've got a lot of responsibility, probably the money that goes along with that. And you're just going to quit it all to be a tour operator.
That's right.
but when you said she's from Ecuador, I'm like, okay, that's probably helped, because
Right.
if she was from West
Bhutan or
Hollywood
something.
or something, she might not have gone for it. But
That's
all
right.
right, so
Yeah,
yes,
we started our business and our marriage with very little funds. It was all based on a dream and pursuing the dream, and I think that's advice I always give to people. Follow your dream and sacrifice the most you can to make it happen.
that's very, very cool. It sounds like you found a good business partner, life partner. That
Yeah,
because there's it's hard for a lot of people to imagine, when they're at the place where they're like, okay, I think I want to get married and I want to marry a guy who's getting ready to quit his job
right.
at the bank.
I always tell people, it's nice, but I must say, we had babies, and she was like the accountant or bookkeeper of the company, and eventually I realized, man, this is too much working with my wife 24/7. So I actually fired her twice in the history of the company. So
Okay.
I always tell people,
Well, you say you fired her twice. I suspect she fired you twice.
yeah,
It just made you
that's
help
right.
you feel like it was your choice. But yeah,
That's the honest truth.
I worked with an ex-wife managing a scuba diving and fly fishing resort off the coast of Belize for a while, and yeah, it can be a real challenge when that's your 24/7 thing with each other. So I appreciate that.
Definitely.
So I just shared that it didn't work for me. I'm divorced. You're still with your wife?
Uh, yes, we're still married, going on
Very,
21 years,
very cool. I went
and
out on a limb when I asked that. I was looking at your face. I was like, oh, I hope.
no, 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 no. I thought I didn't hear the correct question, but I guessed it.
So is she working for you now or still not?
No,
Not for
well,
you, with you, I should say.
you could say she's the chief idea officer, or the
Mm-hmm.
inspiration that keeps this thing going. And um, however, we have three daughters, and they all have logistics, and we've decided that it's just better for her and to have her focused on the kids, and it's just a sacrifice we make instead of the
Cool.
kids coming home and not having not having
No,
us
no,
at
yeah.
home or things like that.
I think
Yeah.
that's great if it works. Yeah. And how old are your kids?
They're 12, 16, and 18, so we got some
Okay.
college bound ones.
Yes. And I'm curious. Well, first, I guess I want to know, have you guys had the opportunity to travel with them very much?
We have. I'm a big believer that you should the children should follow you on your adventures, not the other way around. So
Mm-hmm.
I took my first daughter when she was 5 months old to Rio and the outskirts of Rio, and got on the boat because I was inspecting some places in Brazil because that's how I collect these truffles, you could say,
Mm-hmm.
and met some guides. And so she was like the chief inspector, I always call her, at 5 months old. I carried her on her bag and went everywhere with her.
Well, and traveling with a child can make you probably more aware of your surroundings. It probably a little bit of a pressure test for the people you're inspecting. It's one
Yeah,
thing when
yeah,
you just show up by yourself with your little carry-on bag. It's like it's kind of easy for them to show you a good time. It makes
right,
when you've
right,
got an infant with you, pressure
right,
tests it for sure. So,
right. And of
and
course, I was with my wife, and we've traveled through the regions, all these countries we work with the children. So they've um, we've spoiled them a little because some of these places have been very, very, very posh.
mhm.
But most of the time, they've been able to meet very interesting people and hear some great stories,
Do you
experience
think
something.
that out of the three, I mean, they're old enough now that you can probably get an idea, like, do they enjoy it? Because, like, I've got a teenage son who talks a lot about he wants to travel, and then I take him to some places and he maybe doesn't enjoy it so much. And then a few months later, he's like, "Oh, Dad, wasn't it great when we went?" Well, I remember you weren't enjoying it that much. So I'm curious about your kids. Do you feel like they all enjoy it? Is that something that they will continue to do? Do you think?
I think so. I think you deposit the wanderlust seed in them early on.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen no matter if you like it or not. I think that it's almost natural if you travel, if you take them outside their comfort zone and push them. That's not only a great skill set to have in order to be a risk taker and do
Mm-hmm.
things that sometimes you're not comfortable doing, but also just the ease of sitting down with someone completely different with you and being able to communicate, right? Which I
Mm-hmm.
think is something that people that haven't traveled outside their comfort zone can't really develop, you could say.
Right. No, absolutely. Do you? I mean, I don't know what your parent. You just shared some of your parenting philosophies with me, but I'm curious. Do you see, or would you encourage your kids to go into the tourism business later on in life?
Yeah, I think one of them wants to become a marine biologist because of the numerous times she's swam with turtles and dolphins in the Galapagos, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other one wants to help the disadvantaged people in the world through medicine, probably outside of our borders. And the other one, believe it or not, either wants to become a lawyer and a flamenco dancer. So
Why
that's
not?
an interesting mix.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's
let's see. That's a 12-year-old. I'm not sure
uh,
if she.
might change a few times, but regardless, whatever. I mean, it's
That's right.
I can see in all three of those things. I can see the influence that they've received, and they're just growing up with you, and also through the travel and um, yeah,
It's
that's very very
it's
cool.
fortunate, definitely, to if your parents are in the travel industry. It's fortunate to have those type of parents if you can travel with them for sure.
It is. I've interviewed quite a few folks here on the show that were born into a tour guide family or a tour operator family, and it's just a, a disproportionate number of my guests,
Mm,
and I
definitely.
can see why. I mean, I had some similarities in my childhood that definitely I would spend my summers traveling with my dad and had been out of the country several times, and it leaves a mark. And is there anything? So, if somebody is listening to this that has teenage children that are talking like they want to maybe go into tourism, um, is there anything you would share with? I think this is I had no plan for this question when I started it. I think what I'm getting at is like, what's the downside, or what's the cautionary notes that you might give somebody that's thinking about going into tourism, if there are any?
Well, first of all, I know this talking to millennials and the young people that increasingly many people are wanting to get into this business. You remember the days when they said people were predicting the death of this business because of the
Mm-hmm.
internet, but people are actually realizing, wow, this is an exciting career to choose, of being able to see the world and translate that world to your clients. Um, I think that one thing I would caution is that many times I've been in the countries, while I'm on inspections, working, in the wee hours, putting together proposals, and so it's not as glamorous as it sounds. If you're small, you're gonna have to do a lot of things while you're overseas. So it just doesn't you just can't replace that or find a replacement. Eventually, as you grow, I'm sure you can have a team back home that you can delegate to. But most people start as a one man show, one woman show, and that would be my only cautionary tale. But it's a wonderful industry to pursue, and I think you're seeing that more and more people are entering it. I've noticed.
Right. So what I heard you say was, it's not as glamorous as it's not always as glamorous as it looks, and sometimes you're putting in long hours because you have people traveling on weekends and evenings, and unfortunately things come up, and now
Correct.
we're in a WhatsApp world, or a instant communication world, um, and also, the thing that came up too is I hear a lot of people like, I want to go into the travel business because I love to travel. I want to go see things. I want to go do all these things. But a huge part of working in the travel business is we're in the people business as well, because unless you're just going to go travel and maybe write blog posts or something, we're dealing with people. Most of the people that I would interview on the show, or most tour operators, are dealing with people. And I think I've had a few conversations, and I know from my personal experience, a young person might decide, I want to work in the travel business because they think they're going to get to go see all these places, but they don't realize they're going to have to actually work with people. Um, so I'm curious, just kind of like, I'd like to go into that a little bit about, what are the things that, people should understand about dealing with people, I guess.
Not all people are alike, and when you're in the travel industry, as the more you charge, the more expectations there are about a trip, and people will complain if you're not doing the things right, and things happen, stuff happens, so you have to be ready for that. So it's definitely not as glamorous. Don't get into it if it's just for the travel. Do what I did for 6 months in Brazil, and uh, uh, you know. Uh, barter your way through. But as a business, it's there's a lot of logistics that you have to take care of, and you can't just outsource everything.
It's kind of the analogy I think of. I worked in real estate for a while, doing resident. It was horrible for me,
Right.
but at the time it felt like a necessity, and people would oftentimes say, "Oh, I want to be a real estate agent because I love houses." Like, it's not about the houses. I was able to do it because I liked people. I honestly
Right.
couldn't care about the houses. I've been traveling full time for 3 years. The values of home ownership are totally lost on me. But it's about the people, and it's kind of the same thing with tourism. If you go into tourism because you like the travel, it depends on how you define travel. For me, I define travel as connecting with human beings.
Hmm.
But if it's just about, I want to go see Machu Picchu, or I want to go see the Leaning Tower, or I want to go see Borneo for some reason, but I don't care about the people, it's going to be a real challenge. Um, and if and I'm curious, like, if someone thinking they want to go into tourism, are there types of jobs or ways that people can kind of try out or maybe work on their people skills? So maybe I'm thinking like jobs that translate well into working in tourism, or advice you
I
would give to somebody.
Sure. I think being a trip leader, either on a boat or for some big tour operator company, would be an excellent introduction, because you learn how to lead people, all different types of peoples and personalities, and you're responsible for logistics, and you're going to get an excellent introduction on, you could say, how to form if you want to get into this, you'll have some great experience. So I think being a trip leader would be awesome. One of my someone I admire very much became a kayak instructor in Peru, and that's how he got into this business. You know, it just grew from there. So he was leading groups of people that wanted to kayak in Peru. So
Yeah.
leading groups, just like I led a group in the Galapagos, is an excellent introduction.
So help for the listeners, and I'm curious as well from your perspective. There's trip leaders, and then there's the guides. And I oftentimes think, well, maybe it's easier to get a job as a guide where you have 2 or 3 people, you know, and you're maybe just doing day trips to just kind of get used to, because, you know, that might be a good stepping stone in trip leader. When you say trip leader, what does that mean to you, and what should our listeners understand about what a trip leader does?
Sure, the trip leader is usually kind of like the person responsible for. I mean, many times they're traveling in different destinations with the group, right? And they have guides in each different destination that specializes in that destination. Sometimes some of these trip leaders are actually the guide on some of these small group journeys with a company like Abercrombie and Kent or Butterfield Robinson. I think that would be a good example. But yeah, either a guide or a trip leader would be an excellent way to learn how this business works and get an idea if this is really for you as a career. I think that's an excellent idea.
Career that comes to mind, or a job that comes to mind that is the closest maybe to being a guide or being a trip leader, but it's outside of the tourism industry? So, for example, someone that has worked as a X, Y, or Z would already be halfway there. Or what jobs transfer well into being a guide or trip leader? Anything come to mind?
I think anybody that's involved with logistics, let's say getting a package to Warsaw, or even people in the shipping industry, anything that involves organizing logistics is an excellent skill set that would, I think, translate really well into organizing trips or managing trips, right?
That's interesting. I like your take, and your angle is heavy on the logistics, because it's such an important part. And if you're handling the logistics correctly, hopefully you have other guides and the people you need in the places and at the right times. And maybe it's a little bit of a difference in your and I's personality styles. I'm more like, be a server in a restaurant, or on the people side of it, maybe school teachers or whatever that can manage all the interpersonal dynamics and relationships. And what I like about you is you have that skill set that I wish I had sometimes. Logistics were not my strong suit. But I was just always like, we'll figure it out as we go. So I can see why your clients appreciate you.
Well, these are private trips, and each one tends to be somewhat different. So their logistics is important. You could see.
Yeah, absolutely.
See. Mm-hmm.
Now, are you doing many group trips, or more of the kind of the private FIT departures for your clients?
Mostly private FIT departures, ranging from couples to families, and even multi-gen families. We've done a couple of, you could say, incentive travel or corporate boards that wanted to do something different. Let's say having a corporate board in the middle of the Amazon, a boat, for example, or in the Galapagos, but mostly FITs.
Do you? Who knows who's going to be listening to this? But I'm curious. Do you like the larger groups, the kind of the incentive travel type stuff? I mean, there's a lot of logistics and people involved sometimes. Do you enjoy that part of it?
I do. I mean, I think that bringing a group that is the sole focus is to achieve a camaraderie of that company or that board, and being in, and let's say they have their meetings in the mornings, in the afternoon they do their excursions. and it really brings together that group. So I think it's a very interesting approach of using travel in, you could say, corporate America, right? Or
Right.
for bonding. So
Yeah.
I found it really, really interesting.
All right. Very cool. What part of the process do you get most excited about? What's the, like, because there's a lot of it involved in the process. There's, scouting, I think you said, looking for the truffles. There's putting itineraries, product development, putting the product all together, the conversations with potential clients, the planning process once someone confirms till they get on the plane, to when they get home and you're reading their reviews. If you could only do one, what part of that process gets you the most excited, where you maybe sometimes get so focused on it you couldn't care less if you had to do the rest of it?
Sure. It's a familiarization call, the first call, because I always like to get on the call and find out what their passions are. And today, Zoom is so prevalent, you could say, or ubiquitous, that people don't feel like, before it was kind of odd to have someone on video, right? Before it was phone, but now I can see the reactions and see their excitement if I mention a place, or I can see they're not so exciting. So I find it really personalized and exciting to hear people's dreams. And there's some people actually get half of the excitement of their trip for them is the planning process. So
Yeah.
that when you get those, that makes it even more exciting.
I personally have never understood that. I don't, but it's weird because I enjoyed the planning process with clients for their trips. But then I'm like, when I go somewhere, I'm like, I think I'll figure it out when I get there.
Right.
So,
Right.
But I also agree. I think that the video call thing is a really interesting thing that's come up, because, there's still some operators out there that just, like, I know people personally that are trip planners that, like, I don't want to get it on a video call. I just want to do it by email, back and forth. And I can't get my head around that because, as we know, like, the written word is only like 7% of communication. And it's really hard to tell if someone, I like what you said. You said, I can see if they're excited, because this is an emotional thing. This is not a just strictly business transaction. This is an emotional thing. And if you're having a conversation with them, helping them envision what it's going to be like to take their kids to the Amazon or whatever, there's a lot of emotion around that. And I suspect, like, maybe you have 3 ideas for them, and you share the 3 ideas. You can, even if they don't say a single word, you can probably pick up on what one is the right fit just based on the look on their face, right?
That's totally right. And I think the people that don't need to get on the video call would probably be people that are reselling packages that don't have any customization.
They're not emotionally attached to it, so it doesn't matter.
Right. But I'm actually looking forward to the feedback call to see what they like the most, and hearing, and if I was right on, or for pushing the envelope a little and taking them to a place that they didn't really want to go initially, and for specific reasons I did that. So I always look forward to the feedback call. That would be my second favorite part of the process.
So what really, it's the connection part.
Yeah.
Even though you mentioned logistics, I know that's super important, but when I ask you what's the part you like the most, both of those are not really logistics. It's the connecting and
connecting with
almost the shared experience type of thing, which is a value. I'm curious. So when you're working directly with a traveler or a guest, what percentage of them will you get on a video call with, roughly? Is this almost everybody?
I would say almost 80% would be, because we have a combination of people that travel. We have a direct relationship with, and we also, because of our expertise in the region, and generalist travel agents confide their clients with us, so we can design that trip. In that case, there's less of the video communication because it's not our client, but we definitely try to get as much information early on. So, I would say 80% of our direct clients.
So the other 20%, are they you just get a lot of resistance around that? And I think this is an interesting conversation. I think there's other tour operators that listen to the show, and potential travelers. Maybe there's people listening to the show that book a trip a year, and the last time they booked a trip, someone suggested they get on a video call, and they thought it was silly, so they didn't do it. So that's why we're having this conversation. So the 20% that you don't get on a video call with, what's the biggest objection there, do you think?
I guess it would be because either they're past clients, so they're doing what they call a repeat. So and if I connected with them, they usually say, yeah, let's get another call to connect, right? But and there's always some people that just on the go and they don't want to get on video, or we call them and catch them off guard type of thing. That would be the 20%. Would say.
Yeah. Okay. I was guessing.
It's something worth It's something definitely worth doing if you can afford the time. Not everybody can spend half an hour, 40 minutes with someone. But what I can tell you is that when you talk or connect with them by video or talk by them phone, your chances of them converting or becoming a client go from like 10% to 80%. There's some statistics out there. So
yeah, I believe that. And I suspect that's probably one of the objections that people have. The people that don't want to get on video call is they intuitively know that
they're just scoping you out, right?
They're going to make a mistake and they're going to agree to something that they weren't really ready to agree to, or whatever. That's the story, because fortunately we're dealing with something that's fun and life-changing and really cool stuff. But, in the past when they've had people say, let's jump on a call, they're going to get pitched insurance, they're going to get pitched real estate, they're going to, all these things. So I think there's a knee-jerk reaction to, oh, wait, every time I go face-to-face with somebody, I end up committing to something that I didn't want to do.
Right.
So I think there's something to be said for that. But also, well, you mentioned that maybe they feel like they don't have a lot of time for it, but I would probably make the case that we can probably do this faster, get a lot more accomplished in a half-hour video call than we could get accomplished over, 5 days of back and forth emails.
That's right.
Even a phone call, sometimes you can make more progress on a video call. So,
definitely.
I don't know.
No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, we haven't had one phone connection with the what we call the lead or someone that we don't know from the past. Almost surely it's not gonna become a trip if it's all by email. There's not that human connection, you can say, that made you get confidence, because people are trusting their most valuable resource, which is their vacation time, to sometimes a stranger. So if they can meet that person, that's important.
And if you had to guess, and maybe you don't have to guess, maybe you've already figured this out, but if you were to keep track of, okay, this client we did a phone or video call with, and this other client A, we did the phone chat, client B was all by email. And then if you were to forecast out into the future when they write their review at the end of the trip, do you think there's a pretty clear connection between who's going to write the better review, not meaning who wrote the better review, but who had a better experience?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
They're going to be a lot more open and communicative, no doubt.
Well, they're going to be open, more communicative, yes, but also I guess what I'm saying is the chance of them having a good experience that they would write a good review about is much higher.
That's right.
If you were to just go on to TripAdvisor and you see, oh, we just got a new review and it was a bad review, and before I let you look at the name, before I let you read the review, would you think, you know what, it's probably one of those people that we spoke with recently that wouldn't get on a phone call with us?
That's right.
It's like your gut just tells you, oh man, and you're probably in hindsight, you'd look at it. I'm not saying you have any bad reviews, but I'm saying you'd look at that bad review and think, oh man, I knew I should have pushed him to get on a call. I knew I should have, he kept saying, oh, I'm too busy for a call. And if I had just said, you know what, Bill, look, give me 10 minutes. This is really, really important. Let's get on a call. Then I probably could have avoided that whole bad review and the bad experience. It just, I don't know.
Well said.
Seems
Well
like the world, that's the way the world works. So if you're listening to this and you're working with a tour operator and they suggest you get on a video call, don't worry about your hair. They don't care about your hair. They don't care about whether you've shaved. They don't care what your backdrop looks like, if you've got a bed in the background or whatever. And they're not trying to make a hard pitch or a hard sell. They're trying to make sure that if you move forward with them, that you have a good experience, right?
That's right. That's right.
Anyway,
100%.
I mean, obviously, I do a lot of calls, and I'm on a video call with you right now. That's why we're able to have a good conversation and work through things. But anyway, so that was a bunch of stuff there. Let's go back. So you do most of the FITs, and you do some business with kind of as well travel agents. Let's just put it that way. Other agents that I think you use the word confide their clients in you. I love that. That's great languaging there. Let's actually touch on that, because I know that one thing with travel agents or outbound tour operators, maybe a tour operator in the U.S. that wants to send a client to, Colombia. So they've got maybe somebody in Colombia that's handling all the logistics, actually put together the itinerary, but then the person in the U.S. is the one that, I don't like the word sold, but basically presented the itinerary and is collecting the money and doing the marketing. And oftentimes the travel agent is very reluctant to let the client speak directly with the tour operator, which I get it on some level, but also it can be interesting sometimes because the agent's like, I want to have all the communication until the day that they arrive at the airport. And then your team can talk to them for a week and a half in person, sharing good memories, good experiences, and doing fun stuff. So the travel agent's so worried about you creating a relationship with their client, but you're going to create a relationship with their client eventually if the trip actually goes off and happens. So what are your thoughts if you were speaking to a travel agent right now? That how do you feel about communication between someone like yourself and the end client?
The way we propose it is that see us as, let's say it's travel agency X, right? We see us as your travel agency X Galapagos specialist. You can identify us on the call as a specialist that's going to just make, they're your people on the ground, but they're going to also want to learn a little more about what you like. And so we're not really competing. We're not trying to grab the client. We're trying to add value on the call. So that's how we present ourselves when we want to offer ourselves to the agent as a specialist. And that's why they're seeking us anyway, because we specialize in this region or in this place that they're going to. The agent is specialized on the client relationship and keeping them as clients and making sure they get amazing trips. And what we do is we try to make the travel agent shine in front of their clients, you could say.
I love that. I'm happy I asked that because I love the way you said that. He, like let's say Eric, we're going to have Eric join the call. Eric is our Galapagos program manager, whatever you want to, or specialist. And you could almost show up on the Zoom call with, you could put, like, let's say it's travel agent X. You could put Eric, travel agent X, right on the Zoom call. Because it's no different than if you have your driver pick someone up at an airport, they're holding up a sign saying travel agent X. They might even be wearing a baseball cap or a t-shirt that says travel agent X. That we call it white labeling, right? Where I'm representing you. So that's a really cool way to, and what that does for the agent is it really allows them to open up their network. All of a sudden they've got a team. It's not just them, right? It's not just them sitting in Dubuque, Iowa, doing this. They've got somebody, that I like that. That's a really cool approach.
And some of them are beginning to do it more frequently. Some of them never got the message and are and we respect whichever way.
And a lot of probably just has to do with personality. Some people are really, I hate the word, I don't want to say control freaks.
They're protective of their clients.
Yeah. They're protectionists, they're control freaks, but they gotta, at some point, it's like, look, your client is going to be with our partners in the Galapagos or Brazil for a week and a half, 2 weeks, having a really good time, sharing stories around the dinner table, drinking wine together. So all this time and effort you're trying to put into protecting the client is, I don't know if it's a total waste, but you know, it's a mindset thing, and we all get to
exactly.
Fortunately, we're all people who get to do things however we want, and
yeah, that's right.
hopefully, you know, whatever. So
that's a good question you posed.
We discussed a lot of things, probably a lot of things that I would love to come back and have another conversation with you. And also, I'm just curious, Eric, at this point, what have I forgotten to? Probably a lot of things. What have I forgotten to ask you? Should have asked you, or what do you want to make sure that our listeners know about you? You know, Latin America, your business, maybe your other businesses, just to kind of help them get a well-rounded kind of picture before we wrap it up.
I would just mention that just using one destination as an example, the Galapagos. Many people associate with a destination that you need to can only do by boat. And there's actually other options and ways to do it. I'm a personal big believer that the best way to do Galapagos is do part of it by boat and part of it staying on an island. And there's big reasons for that. And just like that, we do that in all the destinations. We work, you know, from Cuba all the way down to the Antarctica, and so I just wanted to get that point out that expertise it really makes the right trip for the traveler, and we have a website called GalapagosJourneys.com, which specializes in you could say the stories that you can get while in the Galapagos, and it's a very interesting website. But no, you've touched on some very interesting points, and I'm sure the listeners hopefully have been entertained by this hour of our conversation.
I hope so. I was. My hope is that other people like me will find the conversations interesting as well. But
sure.
I appreciate your insights. I think actually this would be a really good episode for travel agents to listen to, some other tour operators, and maybe people that aspire to get into the business. I got an email from a guy today that's, you know, really wants to kind of get into the business. So as we're having this conversation, I'm like, I know I've got listeners out there that would like to do that. So that's why I wanted to go that direction. So I appreciate that. And also what I heard you say just now about the Galapagos is, I think you invited our listeners to kind of set their preconceived ideas aside, because you're absolutely right. Most people, if you go search online for Galapagos trips, you're going to see a lot of Galapagos cruises. You fly in, you get on a boat, you do the boat thing, and the people selling the boat thing will tell you why that's the only way you can do it.
Or the best way.
But yeah. And I think that there's other ideas. So, and I would almost, what I got from that almost is like, do some research, do enough research to feel comfortable that you're speaking with the right person, but don't plan out the trip and then call me and say, here's the trip I planned out. Is like, save yourself a little bit of time and effort. Do as much research as you need to do to figure out if you even want to go to Galapagos or Latin America, and then call someone like yourself and just come with an open, clean slate, because I think that was a really good example.
It'll probably save a lot of time and money doing that, by the way.
Absolutely. So, all right. Well, we covered a lot. Let's come back and have another conversation at some point here in the near future. Eric, thanks for joining me on the show. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Jason. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I trust you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. If you're enjoying the Big World Made Small podcast, please take a moment to tell the algorithm by subscribing and posting a review so that others can benefit as well. I also invite you to take a quick trip over to bigworldmadesmall.com and join our private adventure travel community to receive new episode notifications, special access to our guest experts, and perhaps even some exclusive partner offers that we haven't discussed on the podcast. I'll publish another episode soon. Until then, keep exploring. It's the best way to make a big world feel just a bit smaller.